Mohammed Bakhtiar Khilji, perhaps the greatest criminal in the history of this land. A man, because of whom human civilization lost its priceless treasure. The countless achievements of human progress, accumulated over centuries, vanished from the world in just a few moments. This brute turned into ashes the repository of thousands of years of penance, research, and knowledge. If Hitler massacred millions of Jews in concentration camps, then this demon, Bakhtiar Khilji, with even greater cruelty, burned alive innocent Buddhist monks, scholars, teachers, sages, and ordinary people. Not only that, but afterward, he also reduced to ashes the great universities of Odantapuri and Vikramshila. In history, we read that Lakshman Sen fled in the face of Bakhtiar's invasion, but do we really know the story of King Prithu's valor? Bharatvarsha has never taught the policy of cowardice. If you are slapped on one cheek, turn the other forward, never. Rather, it is from the lives of sovereign kings like Prithu that we learn the history of resistance. They did not bow their heads before foreign powers, no. Instead, they raised an invincible resistance. According to the historical account of Rai Kel Bahadur, King Prithu not only inflicted a crushing defeat on Bakhtiar Khilji, who had come all the way from Turkey, but also became the very cause of his death. Now, let us return to the main story. The backdrop is the 12th century, an extensive region including present-day Assam, North Bengal's Jalpaiguri and Cooch Behar, as well as Rangpur in today's Bangladesh, was at that time under the rule of the Sen dynasty, or, in the Assamese language, the Kenda dynasty. When Lakshman Sen abandoned the throne of Bengal and fled, the demon, Bakhtiar Khilji, declared himself the ruler of Bengal and Bihar. Bakhtiar Khilji was originally a soldier of Muhammad Ghori. It was Ghori who sent him to conquer the regions of Bihar and Bengal in eastern India. And Khilji was not satisfied merely with conquering these territories, no. He unleashed inhuman plunder and a horrific series of massacres. After the destruction of Nalanda, even Udantapuri and Vikramashila, and other universities too, were reduced to ashes in the fire of his violence. He erased glorious chapters of human history from the world in mere moments. But this was not the end. After his victories in Bihar and Bengal, Bakhtiar's covetous gaze fell upon the Buddhist monasteries of Tibet. His lust for more wealth, the burning desire to destroy sacred religious texts, to either kill innocent Buddhist monks or forcefully convert them. All of this was fueling his twisted desires. Thereafter, Bakhtiar Khilji set out from Devkot toward Tibet with roughly 10,000 soldiers. He knew, to the east of Bengal, there was a powerful Hindu kingdom, Kamarupa. And the great ruler of that kingdom was none other than King Prithu. Before attacking Kamarupa, Bakhtiar Khilji devised a cunning plan. He would take Kamarupa along with him, and together they would attack Tibet. His blind greed for wealth tempted him, so he sent envoys to King Prithu, proposing a joint raid to plunder Tibet. But King Prithu, he was wise, he was far-sighted. He knew full well the cruelty, the bloodthirst, the unholy nature of Bakhtiar Khilji. Therefore, he replied in a careful, diplomatic tone from the north. Now is absolutely not a suitable time to attack Tibet. The monsoon season is near. The mountains, the hills, all will be submerged by rainwater. Everywhere there will be water, mud, chaos. To go to war at such a time would be nothing short of suicidal. But when this message reached Bakhtiar, he had already advanced with 10,000 soldiers near Siliguri. Blinded by arrogance, Bakhtiar began to think, was King Prithu deliberately avoiding him? The restless greed, the burning pride within him, could no longer hold him back. Dragging his soldiers through the treacherous routes of Sikkim, he marched toward Tibet. Enduring inhuman suffering, torrential rains, mud, the harsh mountain paths, they finally reached the Chumbi Valley after about 15 days. And there, by plundering a few small villages, Bakhtiar displayed his brutality, mercilessly slaughtering helpless villagers. But this very delay turned his fate in another direction. For in the meantime, the Tibetan army had organized itself. Every cave, every mountain pass, every winding path was at their fingertips. They knew how to fight a war in this terrain. And on the other hand, Bakhtiar's soldiers were completely ignorant of mountain warfare. The result was shocking. Tibetan soldiers suddenly began launching guerrilla attacks from hidden positions in the mountains. One ambush after another, swift, merciless, unpredictable, threw Bakhtiar's army into complete disarray. The Tibetans not only struck them again and again, but also blocked the only route back to Sikkim. Bakhtiar Khilji was now trapped in a dreadful net. He could neither advance deeper into Tibet, nor retreat back to Sikkim. Tell me, what fate could be worse for an arrogant conqueror? In the lap of the mountains, on these unfamiliar battlegrounds, Bakhtiar and his army were imprisoned as if in a pit of death. At last, Bakhtiar made a desperate decision to advance toward Kamarupa. After all, his army was trained and skilled in fighting on plains, wasn't it? But alas, the real situation was very different. Trapped in the mountain routes, drenched by the monsoon, their food supplies began to run out. Hunger, exhaustion, and with it came anger, suspicion. Understanding Khilji's intentions, King Prithu adopted a clever strategy. He shifted all the sub-communities and subjects of the land, the Rajanshi, the Koch Biharis, the Bodo people, along with their belongings, their cattle, their resources, everything, to safe shelters. Thus, without facing any resistance, Bakhtiar's army entered Kamarupa easily. But wait! This was no victory, this was King Prithu's Rael trap. On the battlefield, he applied the dreaded scorched earth policy. Yes. To ensure that the enemy could not sustain the war in any way, he cut off every single supply. Water, food, laborious, pack animals, everything an army needs to survive was deliberately denied to Bakhtiar's forces under all circumstances. Can you imagine? It is even said, though no solid historical records confirm it, that several reservoirs along his route were poisoned. Poisoned? Just think of it, the very water that soldiers reached for turned into their death. By now, unfamiliar with the treacherous mountain paths, Bakhtiar's army was slowly growing weaker, food was gone, water scarce, exhaustion, hunger, and thirst had almost reduced their fighting capacity to zero. Their original plan? To cross the mighty Brahmaputra and attack Kamarupa. But the monsoon had arrived, and the Brahmaputra, with its furious currents, its raging, unstoppable waters, made it absolutely impossible for Bakhtiar to cross. An attack on Kamarupa? Impossible. So, he was forced to change his route. A new plan was made to cross into Kamarupa through the ancient stone bridge, the Shilshako, built over the Bayandi River. But King Prithu, he knew Bakhtiar Khilji all too well. That is why, long before, he had prepared everything in advance. His own army stood ready, and with him, shoulder to shoulder, the mighty forces of the Bodo, the Koch, the Rajanshi, and the Kevat communities. Together, they formed a vast and powerful army. At last, that moment arrived. When Bakhtiar Khilji crossed the Shilshako bridge and reached the strategically chosen location, King Prithu's army pounced upon him like a lion. With their full might, they launched the attack, tearing Bakhtiar's army to shreds. This battle was fought on the riverbank. Before them, a trap of death. Beyond it, a natural fortress surrounded on all sides by mountains. Once they were encircled from every direction, Bakhtiar's army realized their defeat was certain. They desperately tried to retreat. But the path behind had already been blocked by King Prithu's guerrilla forces. They destroyed the Shilshako bridge, cutting off the last hope of escape. Then, with only a handful of soldiers, Bakhtiar leapt into the raging river in a bid to escape certain death. Most of his soldiers were swept away by the current and lost their lives. But, by sheer luck, Khilji somehow survived and took refuge in a temple. That day was the 28th of March, the day when King Prithu's valiant soldiers forced the demon Bakhtiar Khilji to disgracefully jump into the river. Bakhtiar believed that King Prithu would never attack the temple. But Prithu did exactly the opposite. With no weapons in hand, using only bamboo sticks, King Prithu and his men thrashed the demon and drove him out of the temple. Broken by humiliation and the fear of death, Bakhtiar was then forced to flee and seek shelter in Cooch Behar. Later, he somehow returned to Bengal, but in a shattered state. That disgrace silenced him for life. Never again did he dare to embark on another military campaign. But unfortunately, in the same year, another brutal chapter unfolded. Bakhtiar's nephew and Governor-General, Ali Mardan Khilji, grew fearful. If the news of this humiliating defeat spread to other kingdoms, the very foundation of their power would be shaken. Therefore, with his own hands, he killed Bakhtiar Khilji. After this began the dreadful reign of terror of Ghiyasuddin Khilji. He unleashed one massacre after another, one plunder after another, across North Bengal, especially in the Jalpaiguri region. He desecrated the sanctums of temples, destroyed the sacred idols, and struck fear into every heart. But once again, history bore witness to the valor of King Prithu. Ghiyasuddin too met his end in the same way, through a crushing defeat at the hands of King Prithu. The Tabakat-i-Nasiri records that after being vanquished, Ghiyasuddin's condition became so miserable that he was ultimately killed by Nasiruddin Mahmud, the then governor of Bengal. Nasiruddin, the eldest son of Delhi's Sultan Iltutmish, would later ascend the throne of Delhi himself. King Prithu, a devoted follower of Lord Shiva, did not stop merely at military victory. He ordered his commander, Chandrakant, to tour the entirety of North Bengal and reconstruct the temples that had been destroyed, so that the shaken faith and devotion of the people could once again stand upon a firm foundation. The British historian Francis Buchanan Hamilton wrote that King Prithu had established his second capital in Jalpaiguri. Just south of Jalpaiguri, the Baitaga fort, in today's Rangpur district of Bangladesh, was also his creation. In the Yogini Tantra, King Prithu is described as an incarnation of Lord Mahadev, Jalpesha. For this reason, the region came to be called Jalpaiguri. From here began the special prevalence of Shiva worship, and Lord Mahadev, in the form of a Jalpesha, became the presiding deity of this land. But the flow of time changed. After becoming the Sultan of Delhi, Nasiruddin Mahmud marched with his entire army and attacked Baitaga. A battle of unequal strength began. King Prithu's army, though brave, gradually weakened against the might of the enemy, yet the soldiers fought with fire, until the very last moment. Even knowing that defeat was inevitable, did they bow their heads? No. Never. And King Prithu, he who had never surrendered before an enemy, how could he bear the dishonor of defeat? He could not, and in the end, he chose self-immersion. With his death, not just a kingdom fell, but an illustrious chapter of unparalleled valor was wiped away forever. But history did not remain silent. After King Prithu, it was King Sondhya who once again rose, who crushed the Sultanate rule over North Bengal and the Brahmaputra Valley. He inflicted a shattering defeat upon the Sultanate ruler of Bengal, Malik Ikhtiyaruddin Uzbek, and put him to death. This tale of valor, is it not worthy of being sung separately, someday? Its complete account lies preserved, word for word, in the G. Not only that, the Sanskrit inscription at Karnai Barasaboa, near North Guwahati in Assam, still stands intact to this day. It records, in bold words, how the Turks faced a shameful defeat in Kamarupa. And yet, despite all such evidence being present, our country's historians have filled page after page in the name of Bakhtiyar Khilji. But King Prithu? You will hardly find his name. And even if you do, at most, just 2 or 4 lines. Just think. There is still a place named Bakhtiyarpur after that plunderer Bakhtiyar Khilji. At the railway station, in large bold letters, it proudly reads, Bakhtiyarpur Junction. And that too, only 40 kilometers away from Nalanda, the very site he himself destroyed. But till this day, has even a single street in all of India ever been named after King Prithu? Friends, if this story touched your heart, do show your support by giving it a like. Don't forget to share your feelings in the comments. Who knows, your thoughts might inspire someone else too. And to discover more such unheard tales from history, the glorious legends, and the fascinating chapters of ancient Indian culture, make sure to subscribe to our channel. Tap the bell icon so you never miss an update. Come, let us rediscover, together, our lost heritage, the forgotten stories of India.